Hello, everyone. You have already seen me blabbering here multiple times, so this is the last 4 minutes, 45 seconds maybe. My name is Kushal Das. I'm one of the C Python, that is the Python programming language, C implementation, the primary implementation code developer. I'm also currently a director in Python Software Foundation, part of various other free software and like free and open source software projects. Especially I want to mention Fedora Linux, Fedora project, and I'm one of the Tor project core team member. I'm not from here, as you can most probably guess with my accent, but and other things. But moved here in 2021, and the day I moved here, the next day actually I gave a workshop in PyCon Sweden online that year. But last year we also had PyCon Sweden here in the same venue, and I realized the local meetup group was kind of died down. So from that time, I tried to make sure that we have as many meetings or meetups as possible in the Stockholm Python user group. So how many of you are here from Stockholm? And how many of you actually visited one of the meetups? Only a few hands. So for the rest of you, this is your chance to become the part of the local community. And as when we say local community, we are like people from different backgrounds, and we try to meet, if possible, every month. And one of the things we started doing is that our primary speaker is generally one of the upstream core Python person. Like in this case, Pradyumn started this thing. He's one of the people, and he almost touched every critical Python project right now on Earth and Mars. So he started, and then Nicholas came and gave a talk on PyScript. And you know what happened? The rest of the whole PyScript community team, including the author of Fabio and everyone else, they all joined in the same call. And we had David Merge, who actually was giving a keynote in PyCon Estonia. So he just said oh, I'll fly into Stockholm a day or two before, and we'll do the same keynote here in the local meetup group. So we had that talk. And you may have seen this guy multiple times in the last 2 days. But not only keynote here, but he actually gave a talk a couple of months back in Stockholm Python user group, local meetups. And as you can see that, and there were multiple different other kind of talks and things, but it's a local meetup, it's all of us together, and you can actually ask questions to the speakers for a much longer time, and it's not divided upon 300 people, it's only maybe 40 people max. So I would just request you to make sure that come over, and I'm trying to organize the meetups every month, and I ask people for suggestions, whom do you want to meet? There are already multiple names thrown up, so we're trying to contact every one of them, mostly friends, hey, you're coming and giving a talk, kind of, online. And at the same time, because I still have a time left, this group is going on, everything, and we also have proper code of conduct, making sure everything is under the way it should be as an open community, everything. But I also want to mention in the last 1.5 minutes about PyLady Stockholm, because they are also the friends, the community together, and they also have the meetups in the same way, and many times in the same venue, but different organizers, different group. But I'm just showing you the website because they are not there mentioned at the time. PyLadies.ac or PyLadies.ac. So go have a look at the website, and if you want to join the local meetup group in that way. And as I said, we are happy to take, there are already speakers in the conference. I can see, in the last row, the last speaker, they all came to the meetups regularly, gave the talks, and we can see a few people here already. But for the rest of you, you can also come join us. Come over, it's our community together. We can build it. And we also did workshops, by the way. We did on the Python programming language itself, how to do things. And most probably we'll do much more in the coming days. I still have 40 seconds extra to blabber, but instead of that, I'll say, please keep a note of these 2 URLs. One is pyladies.ac, and you can just search about the other one, the bigger URL. So I hope to see you, many of you, again in the local meetups, not only this big conference. Thank you.
Thank you. Then the next is the EPS and Python ecosystem from EPS. Oh, no, sorry. They are not here. Need to skip this. For comparing version numbers, Juhis. That's your talk.
All right, hey again. This time I'm gonna be talking about comparing version numbers. So when Python 3.10 came out, Leon Ekerschen had this great tweet about a lot of software breaking because we entered the double-digit minor version. And then Tim Yates participated in this discussion talking about using that as an interview question with horrifying results. So I started thinking, what do I actually know? What would I tell or code if this was given in an interview? So the first thing I thought about was semantic versioning. It looks like this, 1.5.2. You've got major, minor, and batch. And being a competent Python developer, I would just write some code, be really happy, that wasn't hard, job well done, when can I start the job? Well, that's not all semantic versioning is. There's also pre-release info that is optional, and it has its own rules that are explained on the website on how to compare them. And then there could be metadata, which is you must take it into account when you parse the version string, but you must ignore it when you compare two versions. But the good thing about semantic versioning is that it's well defined. And when something is well defined, you can use rejects. So I go back to writing code, I figure all that out. Great, when can I start? But not everybody uses Semver, right? And not everything that looks like Semver actually acts like it. For example, in Python, we do something like this, which is defined in a PEP. And then I started looking into different systems that are used. There's one called Calver, which uses the calendar, like Ubuntu, for example. You've got the year, the month, maybe a date. Then there's this idiosyncratic version number that, for example, Latte uses, which is just a pi. And whenever you make an update, you just add a digit. And our friends at Perl, they have two. One looks like this, which is a decimal number. So 1.2 and 1.20 are the same. And the other one, that is not. And then we have whatever this is with Microsoft. So what I'm trying to say is that comparing version numbers is complicated. It sounds like an easy, quick task, but it's not. And if you're actually asked this as an interview, ask for a definition. What are we comparing? Show the other person that you know that there's more. Don't try that thing with regex. It won't work. And I find that unit testing and test-driven development is really well suited for this kind of thing. And if you need to do this in real life, hope that there's a standard. And if you find out that there is, document it well, write down how to compare these numbers. And good luck. Thank you.
And now, fragile development, Scrum is terrible, and you should ditch it. Florian.
There we go. All right.
Ready?
I'm ready. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and blokes and non-binary folks, this is a rant. You should not expect me to be reasonable nor attempt to reason with me. Having said that, here is a question for you. If I were to present you with this statement, X's roles, artifacts, events, and rules are immutable, and although implementing only parts of X is possible, the result is not X. If you were to read the statement not knowing what the X stands for, think about what it sounds like to you. If you're wired like me, it sounds like something you'd expect to find in a radical political manifesto, or maybe in the religious writings of a particularly extremist sect or cult. But in fact, the X here stands for Scrum. This is a direct quote from the Scrum Guide in its 2016 edition. To be fair, the wording has changed, and the 2020 version no longer uses this exact wording, but it still says substantially the same thing. Okay. So we have now established that Scrum is all or nothing. You can either do Scrum in its entirety, or failing that, you are not doing it at all. And as we'll see, that means that we can't talk just about whether Scrum is a good idea to do, it is not, but also whether it's possible to do Scrum at all. So, what does Scrum postulate? One of the things that Scrum postulates is that teams self-manage. In fact, that is a very central notion of Scrum. Now, I am absolutely not one to argue that this part is impossible. Teams of professionals are certainly capable of self-management, if, that is, a critical prerequisite is met, namely that the team is stable. Team success, and this is something that the applicable science is rather clear about, is determined to a much greater degree by team stability rather than by individual contributor brilliance. And team stability is practically never a given in the software industry, because someone new joining the team or leaving to pursue something else is perfectly normal. And then the onus is on people we call managers, I am one such creature, to find the right people and ensure that they integrate well and that everyone can collaborate with them productively. And to say, oh, it's just going to manage itself, that's basically just shirking management responsibility. Furthermore, the Scrum Guide states unambiguously on sprints that a new sprint starts immediately after the conclusion of the previous sprint, end quote. That's not how sprinting works. That's not how anything works. If this did work, then the current world record in the marathon would be 1 hour, 7 minutes, and 22 seconds, because, of course, a marathon is just 422 100-meter dashes strung back to back, right? So what's the big deal with Kipchoge breaking 2 hours, eh? The slacker. He'd never last in a proper Scrum team. So this is nonsense. Software development is a marathon, not a sprint, and pretending otherwise is just herding people into burnout. Up next, the daily Scrum. The Scrum Guide defines this event as a specific daily occurrence time box to 15 minutes and involving the entirety of the development team. Now, it should give you pause that this event is named after an event in rugby for which professional players had to invent a safe word, neck, so they wouldn't get their necks broken. But even if you disregard this original meaning entirely, on what kind of planet does this make sense? This is staggeringly out of place in a modern development team, which may be well spread out over multiple homes or offices and time zones, may not physically be in the same place, etc. And have you ever been in a meeting involving more than 3 people that got anything accomplished in 15 minutes? And remember, it's 15 minutes, time boxed, immutable, because if you think that your daily Scrum can be 30 or 45 minutes, or that you can just do it every other day, or maybe 3 times a week, recall, if you're doing that, you're no longer doing Scrum. And there's a bunch of other traits of Scrum that make absolutely zero sense, but I'm short on time, so these 3 will have to do for now. So arguably, some of the methods proposed in Scrum are actually suitable for emergency situations. So in a situation where you need to come up with a development solution that requires creativity and hustle and speed, you may well sit down, put down requirement lists, select a coordinator and spokesperson for your team, and just start hacking. But if your team is permanently operating in emergency mode, hightail it out of there. It doesn't matter which role you're in, because as a developer, you're headed for burnout, and as a manager, you're herding your team into burnout. Either way, you shouldn't be doing this job, either in your own interest or in that of others. So don't be a Scrum bag.
Now, name for Pythonistas, Pietro.
Thank you.
No, someone can borrow the dongle?
Thank you.
You need to get the cable. Ready? Okay.
Okay, so hi everyone, I'm Pietro, I come from Italy, and I want to talk to you about NIM. And but first, I want to tell you that if you ever pass from Milan, maybe for tourism, We organize a meetup there also, so connect on LinkedIn, and we're always welcoming speakers that pass through the city to give talks, and that's the most important part. So, what is NIM, I'll tell you in a second, but it's also the story of why I'm here at Python Sweden, and you'll hear about that at the end. And I haven't forgotten to use the microphone, but I have a very loud voice, so you have not noticed that. So what is NIM? NIM is a programming language, and I find programming languages very nice. I started with Python, I still use Python a lot, but I find it's very nice to learn programming languages, even smaller one, niche one, you probably haven't heard about that. The differences with Python is that it's compiled, and it's statically typed. And this is something that is very nice because the compiler helps you find your mistakes and stuff like that, and Sebastian knows about the fact that types are good. And you can kind of use it for everything in the sense, this is kind of similar to Python in the sense that you can do pretty much everything with Python, from MicroPython to web development, and you can do it also with NIM, only on a very much smaller scale. And I ran into NIM in 2018, and I will have these references in the slides, but I will not talk about them anymore because I don't have time. But I started doing open source with that, and it has been fun, and it has been my way of procrastinating learning Rust. So, the nice, attractive thing for Python people to NIM is the syntax. The syntax is very similar, and when you want to learn a new language, the level of weirdness of the language is a factor in getting accustomed to the new language. So the syntax is Pythonic, but it has superpowers in the terms of metaprogramming, which I'm not going to talk about. One very small thing that I very like about the syntax is this thing that is sometimes called uniform function call syntax. You have something like a type grid, and you have a couple of functions, show and update, but you can just think about one of those functions. And this function you can call them in three different ways. One, the command mode, the method mode, or the function mode. And the compiler understands that. And that's pretty nice if you think about print and Python 2 and Python 3. So, the other main attractive for NIM is the fact that it's performant, because it compiles to C, and so you can reach whatever performance you want. You can also embed assembler or whatever. And a lot of people are attracted to this by the performance, and I like it. I mean, it's not the main thing that I like about NIM, but I would say the fact that you can write for loops without being scared about, okay, I don't want to do for loops, I need a library for that. So you really can go back and write your algorithms in a very nice way that you understand, and here is a matrix multiplication. And, well, you have a very nice interoperability with Python, which is a good thing. I mean, all languages try to have a nice interoperability with Python because Python is great. But here, add the macro thing. Basically, what you can do is have a NIM file. You just add these things, which is called pragma, which is the only part of the ugly syntax of NIM, but you get used to it. And you have this NIM porter library, which was actually developed by Rustation, so that's good. And you just import it before importing your NIM library, like that, and you call Python on the Python file, and it works. And this is based also on the NumPy library, which was done before. But the things that I like the most is the fact that it also compiles to JavaScript. And that's something that I really love. I come from data science, and I try to do widgets explaining complex stuff, and I cannot ever do that. So this is one of the things I wanted to show you, which is pretty big, smaller release now. This is a small plant app of something like that. Which is 4 parameters of this curve right here that I found on Twitter, and I decided I have to implement this in NIM, and the amount of code that I get using more or less some libraries is this kind of code, which is very little. You have here the HTML part, the canvas, and 4 sliders, which are defined here with their values, and you have basically the equation of the map, and basically that's it. And so I'm almost done, and I'm coming to the reason why I'm here in Sweden, because I started doing this open source in 2020 in this project which is called NIMIB, which is how we did that. And the slides can be done in NIM, and Hugo there in the back is the author of the slides, and it's why I came to find him.
So now we have making scriptomics with Python. Inácio. Ready?
No. Yes. Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Inácio. Let's talk about bioinformatics in this ugly word called transcriptomics. And let's go. Well, what is that ugly word means? Transcriptomics is a study of RNA content produced from the genome of our organism. So our DNA is transcribed in RNA. And when we collect the RNA, we try to measure with transcriptomics the expression of the genes. With expression of the genes, we can, for example, tell the differences between a tumor tissue and a normal tissue, or tell the difference between why a plant is adapted to cold weather and why a plant is adapted to hot weather. So establish this difference. There are very granular levels of doing transcriptomics. The first one is bulk transcriptomics, the traditional. You take a tissue, extract the RNA, and do the transcriptomics, expression of genes. In Python, we use PyDSeq2. That is a Python implementation of the traditional R package dseq2. So that's how we do it with Python. But we can get a bit depth, not only extracting the RNA content from a tissue, but from the cells. And that's why we call it, in this level, single-cell transcriptomics, because we measure the expression of genes of each single cell. And for doing that, we can use ScanPy, the most famous one, which use ANN data, or SCARF, which use ZAR for efficient data processing. We can also get back to the tissue and measure the expression levels of genes and tell how are the expression levels in each region of the tissue, which is what we call spatially resolved transcriptomics, or for intimacy, spatial transcriptomics. There's a difference between these two terms. For doing that, we can use in Python SquidPy or STLearn. Spatially resolved transcriptomics were invented here in Sweden, which is nice. Some use it for resources for studying all of that. Bioinformatics Canada and Sambomics have channels on YouTube with lessons about transcriptomics with Python. There's this book from Single Cell Transcriptomics written by Fabian Theis' team, the main person of Single Cell Transcriptomics. He's a researcher that is in Germany, and Isaac Weishaupt is the main developer today of ScanPy, and Giovanni Paglia is from Italy, is the main developer of SquidPy and Serverse. That's the single cell group that manages single cell Python packages. So that's it. Thank you very much.
It's me. The next one's me. This is bowling. Wait, I'm going to fix everything, don't worry. Of course not. Oh, damn, this is not with HDMI. Oh, why it's not connecting here? It's Mac, it's complicated.
I will start it for you, no worries.
Can you start? Yeah?
Yeah, sure.
No, it's not showing. Okay, now it seems to be. I just lost my mouse. Okay, let's see. Okay, it's a bit, I don't know why, but it's Mac, So my talk is about automating Linux BR. People ask what is BR, if it's beer, no, it's Brazil. Sorry, almost there. So I'll start with br-linux.org. Okay, that's a bit confusing, right? It's a typo squash in some place. So what is this? This was a long time ago. Was a Brazilian site that had like posts, everything related to Linux. And in 2019, it was announced that we are going to stop because it was one person maintained site, and the person was overburdened with people complaining, etc. And the person decided, it's over. So what did you do? When it was announced to stop, we fork. So then we create the linuxbr.org, which is, as you can see here, was a bit sketchy, especially the penguin, right? And but resembles the site, and you can see there is not much posts. It's in Portuguese, of course, from Brazil. But the main problem we had there was, first, it's Joomla. Who knows Joomla is PHP, CMS, right? I know everybody feels sorry for me in this moment. Yes. So what could possibly go wrong? Oh, boy. First problem was missing people to post. That was the major problem we had. Like, people was just eventually come, post something, and after 3 months, another post. So our expectation to ramp up the fork didn't work as expected in terms of news. Was not bringing so much news. Then, oh boy, it came Joomla 3 to Joomla 4. That was the result. It's in Portuguese, but you can see the top on the bottom. Class string not found. Okay, there's no J string. It's complete ruined. So, oh boy. What do? We ask a ChatGPT. Here's actually not the question. It's a bit forward, but I'll come back later. But ChatGPT proposed me to just move to WordPress, which I mentioned. And if who knows Eric Andre, he said, Plone, go to Plone. I said, no. I have too many problems already on PHP, and let's keep it simple. Then the basic part I wanted from Joomla and never managed to make was to automate the posts because we have no people. So then I asked the ChatGPT how to do that. That's the part I was asking how to do to post the pictures. And it was showing me how to, it's working, not work. And it is interesting because you can ask, I got the media error for 100. Then try this instead. So it's, I think, was quite good. So the result is here. So I'm going to switch page here. So this is the page. You can see it looks quite okay, right? I'm not going to go across because it's in Portuguese, but it's posting pictures, everything in automated way. And the code is here. So you can see there is a Python translator. I get from Hacker News everything. Then I do some corrections, like in Portuguese, Rust. It translates literally Rust to Rust. So no, keep that. And the same for shell. It was changing for seashells. So I had to do basic things. Then I do some, a lot of magic stuff here. And I magically post here, but that's not the only good part. We have also, I need to renew the token here. So I do the renew of the token from times to times. And I post in Mastodon. So I have a bot that as soon as you see there is a new post, it goes there and publish on Mastodon. All the code is available. So that's all I have to say. And tak. Now, get involved for fun and profit, Frederick. Let me hand over.
All right. So yeah, it's another community talk. Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead. So first, I'm going to say some things that some of the other people who talked about community and getting involved in upstream projects and so on did not say. And the first thing I'm going to say is that drive-by contributors are also people, and they deserve love. It's so easy when we talk about this, we talk about core developers, and when we talk about upstream, we talk about core developers and the people who do the most in every project and the sort of fame that comes with that. But you need to remember also that there's a long tail. And I know about this because I'm a serial drive-by contributor. I've contributed to CPython, to Airflow, to Rust. I was involved in Rust early and then I just dropped it. I burned out before Grayson did even. I've been involved in lots of projects. I looked at my GitHub history and I've mailed patches back in the day once to a project that got accepted and then I never ever talked to them again. But this is also valuable because all of those patches was stuff that I found. I found that the CPython HTML parser could not handle illegal special character escapes. So I fixed that, and I sent it, and I had to defend it a bit. Why do we need this? Because otherwise everything breaks. Fine. And it got accepted. And now no one has to care about that anymore, ever, or until they rewrite it in Rust or whatever, and reintroduce the bug. And you don't have to be... Most of the people we see up here who are, you know, done requests and they've written CPython, they've done everything, and they go to all of these conferences and speak. You don't have to do that to be a contributor. Lots of the core contributors don't ever go and speak. They have a few people, core contributors, who are interested in that, and you don't have to be that. And a lot of being a core contributor to anything is also, as someone said, it's people management a lot. So you don't have to be a coding wizard. I've been coding for, let's say, more than 20 years, and I'm not that good of a coder. I'm pretty good at solving problems, but I'm not that good of a coder. So I always have a bit of nervousness when I submit a patch to these gods of CPython, but they're generally very nice. But you don't have to go all in and see yourself as the next star of Python just because you want to patch a weird bug in a small part of the system. And the one thing where I didn't really drive by was that 11 years ago I sent an email to PyStockholm and GothPyList and asked if maybe we could do some kind of Swedish Python conference. And to tack on what Deb said, I had absolutely no plan, no goal, and I had no idea what it would cost in time and money to run a conference. Which makes me very happy that 10 years later and 7 years after I've dropped out and went abroad, we're still here. It makes me both very happy and very proud to see that this has survived me so well. Thank you. And I'd say that for all of these conferences, there's lots of conferences, it doesn't have to be Python conference. It's so easy to just volunteer at a conference. And especially if you're in the beginning of your career, it's a killer move because you network so well. And the input in time just to be here on the conference days and help a bit is basically nothing. If you want to actually get involved, and I do think that you should, I'm not going to repeat what everybody else said, but I'm going to say one thing. Don't ghost. The worst thing about running any volunteer thing ever is that when life happens and people don't have time, they feel ashamed, so they just stop answering instead of saying, life happened, I can't do this anymore. That's like the single most important thing I can say. If you're involved in a conference, if you're involved in PyCon next year, and then shit happens and you can't do it, tell people so that someone else can pick up the slack. And the profit part. I'm not saying that past performance is an indicator of future results, but since I sent that email, and I'm an independent contractor doing short-term contracts, I have never, ever applied for a job. I've accepted offers. So do with that what you will, but it helps with business and getting a job. Thank you.
Before we go to the last one, let's go back to EPS, EuroPython. The speaker is here. Last call. Okay. Then, wait. Ah, you're coming. Okay.
Yeah, so I don't have the slides because they're in the train station. But basically, we're EuroPython Society. We sponsored this year to make this event even better than it would have been anyway, I hope. We run a conference. It's going to be in July. I can't tell you any more than that just yet, but if you sign up to our newsletter, we will let you know soon. We will decide in the next couple of weeks where we're going to be, so you'll find out before the end of the year. And we're always happy to take volunteers and members. If you sign up to be a member, you get to vote on who's going to be the next board. That will in turn decide where the next EuroPython after next year's is going to be. So, thank you.
Okay, so the last one, but not the least but not last but not least. How to automate your flow Aries. Did I say it properly? Thank you. Good to go?
Cool. Yeah. Thanks. This is automate your data flows and non-professional approach. And it's not a technical talk. It's something in between a community talk and a technical talk. Let's start with who I am. So my name is Aris, of course. I'm a geophysicist, and I work at Deltares. Who knows what is geophysics? Cool, a little bit more than last year. That's perfect. Next year it will be even more. And I'm also a board member for PyCon Sweden. So I work with Python. I like Python, and I love the community. And I code with Python almost every day. And I'm not a software developer. I use Python to solve problems in geophysics. So the motivation is I want to show you that Python is pretty much everywhere. We saw a talk about bioinformatics before. Python is really used in a very broad spectrum of disciplines. And it's really for everyone. So yeah, I would like to share some of my experiences with Python. And I would like to sort of say that I use Python to make tools that solve problems. And sometimes simple is good enough. And not every package and every script that you make needs to be 5 or 10 or 50K lines of code before it can be useful for others. So keep that in mind. So with that, I would like to share 2 small packages that I created. And in the last 6 years, I think they were the most used. The first one was about transferring data. So the problem here was we had different instruments. They were situated around the country in different locations. They were collecting data, but the data were just sitting there locally. And we would like to gather them in our server centrally so that we can process them. And before I scripted those tools, the process was that every week, every month, every 2 weeks, whenever, somebody would use FileZilla or whatever. They would log into the server, and they manually will download the data one by one. So just a simple tool, a few lines of code, probably not more than 100 if I remember correctly, maybe 150. What needs to be done is to identify the protocol, so which protocol you are using, FTP, SFTP, whichever FTPS, and then use a library. I really love Paramigo. It's a very good library for SFTP and SSH connections. And then you need to find a way to check the file. So the problem there is you have your remote folder and you have your local folder, and you want to synchronize them. So some sort of checking, either using a haslib, for example, or just the file status, like the size, the name, and the date. That's usually good enough. Super useful, has been used in the last years quite a lot, and I'm super happy. The second tool is a pipeline, and I put pipeline in quotes because when I tell about data science about pipelines, they're like, oh, Apache Airflow, that does the job. But no, this is a bit more simple. So we use in geophysics a lot of file-based systems. So we have folders with subfolders, and the data are sitting there in some sort of structured way. And we have the transferring established, so we're getting data every night, for example, and we have our processing routines and our visualization routines, and all we need basically is, when a new file comes, just run the processing scripts. And then when this is done, just run the visualization scripts on the intermediate result. So for that, I used another library, which is called Watchdog. Super useful, and you can use it to monitor changes in the file system, and you can trigger events, you can trigger other scripts. Super useful. And bonus, it can also be used to set up and clean up your folders, for example, when you write the software. And if you want to be sneaky, you can put it in your friend's computer, and you can delete the save of the favorite games every night. So the Python ecosystem is amazing. It has so many tools, and if you need something for your work, it's probably there. I think that's why it's probably being used so much in so many different disciplines. And I will definitely encourage you to identify a task that you need to do frequently and automate it. And you don't need to write perfect code. As long as you focus on writing code that works and it's readable, I'm pretty sure it will be used. Someone will need it. And you don't have to be a software developer. If you can do it, if I can do it, so can you. So sure, talk to me for pretty much anything that has to do about data. If you want to know more about geophysics, hit me up. We will have guest drinks later, so that's a good opportunity. And don't be afraid to share your work, share your experiences. You can submit a call for proposals for next year. You can help us organize next year's event. And if you want to sponsor us, just reach out. Yeah, thank you.